From the time I was little, my brother Jacob was the person I looked up to most in the world. He was 2 years older than me, taller, stronger, and always carried himself like nothing could touch him. When the neighborhood kids tried to bully me because I was quiet, shy, and a little awkward, it was Jacob who stood in front of me, fist clenched, and told them they'd regret it if they ever laid a finger on me. I can still hear his words from when I was about 7 years old, standing in our driveway after a group of kids teased me for bringing a worn-out backpack to school. Jacob had stormed out of the garage, put his arm around my shoulders, and said, "You don't touch my sister. Ever. If you mess with her, you mess with me." That day, I walked home taller than I had in weeks. Because of Jacob, I felt safe. It became our thing, Jacob always telling me he'd protect me, no matter what. At night, when thunderstorms rattled the windows and I crawled into his room because I was too scared to sleep, he'd smile in the dark and whisper, "I got you. Don't worry, nothing's gonna happen while I'm here." His words wrapped around me like a blanket warmer than anything in the house. Growing up in our small Ohio town, we didn't have much. Our parents worked long hours, dad at the auto repair shop, mom as a cashier at the grocery store, and money was always tight. We wore hand-me-downs, ate ramen more nights than not, and counted coins before heading to the movies. But through all of that, Jacob made me believe we had something stronger than anything money could buy: loyalty. He made me believe that no matter what, we'd always be on each other's side. But if I'd known then how fragile that promise really was, I would have held on to those nights a little longer. Middle school was when things started to change. Jacob became popular almost overnight. He shot up in height, joined the basketball team, and suddenly everyone knew his name. Girls liked him, teachers praised him, and our parents beamed every time he came home with another medal or ribbon. Meanwhile, I stayed. Me. Quiet. The kind of girl who preferred sitting in the library during lunch instead of the noisy cafeteria. I had a couple of friends, but nothing compared to the crowd Jacob ran with. Still, whenever I felt left out or invisible, I reminded myself, Jacob's got my back. And that meant more than anything. I never realized how fragile that trust was until freshman year. High school was overwhelming. Bigger hallways, louder kids, tougher classes. On my first day, I tried to tell myself it wouldn't be so bad. After all, Jacob was a junior now, and I thought maybe that meant I'd be safe from all the worst of it. If anyone tried to mess with me, surely they'd think twice once they realized who my brother was. For a while, that seemed true. I'd catch kids glancing at me and whispering, "That's Jacob's sister." It gave me a strange kind of comfort, like maybe his shadow could shield me even when he wasn't around. But shadows don't always protect you. Sometimes, they hide things you never expect. It started small. Whispers in the hallway. Girls giggling behind their hands when I walked by. Notes slipped into my locker that said things like teacher's pet or wannabe. At first, I ignored them. Kids were mean, that's just how high school was, right? But then it got worse. One day, I walked into the cafeteria and felt the room shift. A wave of laughter rippled through the tables as I carried my tray, and I had no idea why. It wasn't until I sat down that my friend Anna leaned in and whispered, "Don't listen to them. They're just repeating stuff." "What stuff?" I asked, my stomach twisting. She hesitated, then looked down at her food. "People are saying, you like stalk Jacob. That you don't have any friends so you follow him around. That you're obsessed with him or something." I nearly dropped my fork. "What? That's not even true." "Who would say that?" Anna shrugged helplessly. "I don't know. It just kind of started going around. Someone said they heard it from one of the guys on the basketball team." I felt my face burning, humiliated. How could anyone even think something like that? Jacob was my brother. My protector. The idea that I was obsessed with him was disgusting, and yet somehow, people believed it. That night, I stormed into Jacob's room. "Do you know what people are saying about me?" I demanded. He looked up from his phone, eyebrows raised. "What are you talking about?" "They're saying I follow you around. That I don't have friends. That I'm I couldn't even finish the sentence. It made me sick. Did you hear any of this? Jacob blinked, then shook his head. No. And even if I did, who cares what people say? They're just dumb rumors. Ignore it. But his voice was too calm, too casual. Like it didn't matter. Like my humiliation wasn't even worth his attention. I wanted to believe him. I wanted to believe he was still the same brother who whispered in the dark that he'd always protect me. But something in his eyes made me wonder, for the first time in my life, if maybe he knew more than he was letting on. Because the truth is, whispers don't spread on their own. Someone has to start them. And I couldn't shake the nagging feeling that the person behind it all might not be a stranger. It might be Jacob himself. At the time, I pushed the thought away. No, he would never. He was my brother, my protector, the one person I could always count on. At least, that's what I wanted to believe. What I didn't realize was that this was only the beginning. The rumors were just the first crack in the foundation. And once a foundation starts to crumble, it doesn't take long before everything built on top of it comes crashing down. If chapter 1 of my life in high school was about the whispers that floated through the hallways, chapter 2 was about how those whispers became knives, sharp cutting, and impossible to ignore. At first, I tried to follow Jacob's advice. Ignore it. Pretend it didn't bother me. Walk through the halls with my head held high, even when I could hear the muffled laughter behind my back. But the truth is, no matter how much you try to act strong, words sink in. They claw their way into your chest, sit heavy on your lungs, and make it harder and harder to breathe. The lies started to evolve. It wasn't just, she follows her brother around anymore. Suddenly, people were saying I cheated on tests, that I cried in the bathroom every day, that I begged Jacob to let me sit with him and his friends at lunch and he had to push me away. None of it was true. But in high school, truth doesn't matter. The story people believe is the one that spreads fastest. I'd walk into class and feel the silence fall. Heads turned. Whispers traded across the room. A laugh here. A smirk there. And then the teacher would start talking, pretending not to notice, leaving me alone with the invisible spotlight I never asked for. One day, during gym, it all came to a breaking point. We were playing volleyball, and I was already nervous because sports had never been my thing. The ball came flying toward me, and I missed. Laughter erupted from the bleachers. Not the kind of laughter when someone trips and everyone giggles harmlessly, but the kind that bites, the kind that says, "Of course she messed up. That's who she is." I tried to shake it off, but then someone shouted, "Hey, don't get too close, she might write about you in her diary." The whole class roared. My cheeks burned so hot I thought I'd burst into flames. I wanted to scream at them, tell them they were wrong, but my throat closed up. The words wouldn't come. Instead, I felt the tears prick my eyes, and I ran out of the gym, ignoring the teacher's call for me to come back. In the bathroom stall, I pressed my hands over my face and asked myself the same question over and over. Why me? Why was I the target? Why were these lies spreading so easily? That's when Anna found me. She slipped into the stall next to mine and said softly, "They're jerks. Don't listen to them." But her voice was heavy, and I knew she wasn't telling me everything. "Anna," I whispered, my voice shaking, "where are they hearing this stuff from? Someone has to be making it up. Who is it?" She was quiet for so long, I thought she'd left. But then she sighed and said, "I don't know if it's true, but people are saying it came from Jacob's friends." My heart dropped. What? Like, stuff Jacob might have told them. Stories about you. Embarrassing stuff. I don't know if it's real. I swear I don't. But that's what people are saying. It felt like the walls closed in on me. Jacob? My brother? My protector? No, it didn't make sense. He would never humiliate me like that. He promised. But the seed was planted, and once it was there, I couldn't get rid of it. That night at dinner, I watched Jacob. The way he laughed with Dad about practice. The way he barely looked at me. The way he seemed so comfortable, so confident, while I sat shrinking in my chair, invisible. And for the first time, I wondered if maybe he wasn't my protector anymore. Maybe he was the enemy, and I just hadn't realized it yet. I wanted to confront him right there, but Mom was asking about his grades and Dad was talking about his car breaking down again, and I sat there silent, pushing peas around my plate, trying to swallow the lump in my throat. Later, I gathered the courage to knock on his door. He was sitting at his desk, headphones on, scrolling through his phone. "Can I ask you something?" I said, my voice trembling more than I wanted. He looked up, annoyed. "What? Are you telling your friends stuff about me?" His eyebrows knit together. "What kind of stuff?" I swallowed hard. "Like stories, rumors, embarrassing things. Because people at school keep saying things that only you would know." And Anna said maybe. Before I could finish, he scoffed. "Seriously? You think I have time to talk about you? I've got better things to do than spread stupid rumors. Get over yourself." The words hit me like a slap. Get over yourself. I wanted to scream at him. Tell him he was lying. Demand the truth. But instead, I just stood there, frozen, while he slipped his headphones back on and turned away like I didn't matter. That night, I lay awake staring at the ceiling. His denial should have comforted me, but instead, it felt like gasoline on a fire. The way he brushed me off. The way he wouldn't even look me in the eye. Something wasn't right. And deep down, I think I knew the truth. But admitting it out loud was too painful. So I buried it. The next week, things escalated. Someone created a fake Instagram account with my picture and started posting embarrassing captions under it. Stuff like, "Just cried again because Jacob won't let me sit with him." Or "Studying alone because I have no friends." The comments filled up with laughing emojis, and classmates I'd known since elementary school were tagging each other, sharing the posts, spreading them like wildfire. I wanted to disappear. I wanted to crawl under my bed and never come out. Then, one night, as I scrolled through the fake account in tears, I noticed something that made my stomach drop. The account was followed by almost everyone in Jacob's friend group. Not only that, but one of the posts had a like from Jacob himself. My chest tightened so hard I couldn't breathe. He knew. He saw it. And instead of defending me, instead of reporting it, he pressed the little heart. That was the moment something inside me cracked. Because if Jacob, the boy who once whispered he'd protect me from everything, could stand by and let this happen, maybe even encourage it, then the promise he'd made me wasn't just broken. It was destroyed. And the pieces of it were cutting deeper into me than any rumor ever could. By the time winter came, I wasn't the same girl who had walked into high school that first day clutching her books like a lifeline. I was hollowed out, quieter than ever, moving through the hallways like a ghost. Every whisper felt like it was about me. Every laugh echoed in my ears long after it faded. But the worst part wasn't the rumors themselves. It was the suspicion, this gnawing, relentless voice inside me that wouldn't shut up. What if Jacob really is behind all of it? I didn't want to believe it. I clung to the memories of the boy who swore he'd protect me, who put his arm around me when I was scared. But memory is fragile, and every day, new cracks formed in the picture I held of him. It wasn't just the Instagram account. It was the way Jacob's friends looked at me in the hallway, smirking like they knew something I didn't. It was the way Jacob laughed too quickly when someone made a joke about me. It was how, whenever I tried to tell him how badly I was hurting, he brushed me off like my pain was an inconvenience. Then came the night of the basketball game. Our school's team was playing their biggest rivals, and the gym was packed with students, parents, and teachers. The energy buzzed. Everyone chanting, stomping, cheering. Jacob was on fire, scoring points, high-fiving teammates, basking in the spotlight. I sat in the bleachers, trying to disappear into the crowd. But about halfway through the game, something happened that I'll never forget. During halftime, a group of Jacob's friends came over, laughing as they waved their phones around. One of them shouted just loud enough for the people around us to hear, "Hey, isn't that your sister? The one who cried because you didn't save her a seat?" The whole group laughed. Loud. Deliberate. My stomach twisted. I turned to Jacob on the court, silently begging him with my eyes to say something, to shut them down, to defend me. He looked right at me. Right at me. And then he smiled. Not a soft, brotherly smile. A cocky, smug grin that told me he wasn't just letting it happen, he was enjoying it. The betrayal hit like a punch. I barely made it through the rest of the game. When the buzzer finally sounded and the crowd erupted in cheers, I pushed my way outside, gulping down the cold air, trying not to break down in front of everyone. But Jacob found me. He came out with his friends, basking in their praise, and when he saw me standing by the doors, shivering, he walked over like nothing had happened. "What's your problem?" he asked, annoyed. My problem? My voice cracked, the dam inside me finally breaking. My problem is that everyone's laughing at me, Jacob. Everyone. And you don't even care. You just sit there and let it happen. He rolled his eyes. God, you're so dramatic. Nobody cares that much. You make everything bigger than it is. Don't lie to me, I shouted, my voice sharp enough that a few of his friends stopped and glanced over. I know you've been telling them things. I know you're behind this. Why? Why would you do this to me? For a second, I thought I saw something flicker in his eyes. Guilt, maybe, or shame. But then he smirked, that same smirk from the court, and shrugged. Maybe if you weren't so weird, people wouldn't make fun of you. The words sliced me open. I stared at him, my brother, my protector, the boy who once promised to stand between me and the world, and I realized he was the one throwing me to the wolves. Tears blurred my vision, but I didn't let them fall. Not in front of him. Not when he looked at me like I was nothing more than a burden. Then I guess I was wrong about you, I whispered. You're not my protector. You're just another bully. His face hardened, but he didn't stop me when I walked away. He didn't chase after me. He didn't call my name. He just let me go, like I didn't matter. That night, I locked myself in my room and cried until I couldn't breathe. Every memory of us as kids replayed in my head like a cruel joke. The late night talks. The promises. The way he used to stand up for me. Was all of it fake? Or had he changed so much that I didn't even recognize him anymore? The betrayal cut deeper than any rumor ever could. Because rumors come from strangers. Betrayal comes from someone you love. After that night, something inside me shifted. I stopped looking for Jacob in the hallways, stopped waiting for him to step in, stopped hoping he'd defend me. Because now I knew he wasn't going to. But letting go of hope doesn't mean the pain disappears. If anything, it grows heavier. Over the next few weeks, I drifted further into isolation. Anna still tried to be there for me, but even she couldn't understand the weight I carried. I stopped eating lunch in the cafeteria altogether. I'd hide in the library, pretending to read while fighting the tears that always threatened to spill. At home, I avoided Jacob. We barely spoke, except for forced small talk at dinner. Our parents noticed something was off, but they didn't press. They were too busy working overtime, paying bills, trying to keep the house together. And even if they had asked, what would I have said? That their golden boy, the pride of the family, was systematically tearing me apart? No, they wouldn't believe me. So I carried the weight alone. But the thing about carrying pain is that it doesn't just sit quietly. It grows. It festers. And eventually, it demands to be heard. The breaking point came one Friday afternoon. I was at my locker, gathering my books, when I heard laughter behind me. A group of Jacob's friends walked by, and one of them muttered just loud enough, "Careful, she'll write a poem about you crying tonight." They all laughed. But this time, I didn't run. I slammed my locker shut, turned around, and snapped. Why don't you say that louder? Or are you only brave when you're hiding behind my brother? The hallway went quiet. Their smirks faltered, just for a second. But before anyone could respond, Jacob appeared. He looked at me, his expression a mix of irritation and something colder, almost like amusement. Come on. he said to his friends, ignoring me. Let's go. And just like that, they walked away, leaving me standing there, heart pounding, tears threatening again. That was the moment I realized something I didn't want to admit. Jacob wasn't just ignoring the rumors. He wasn't just standing by. He was fueling them. And if I wanted the truth, I was going to have to dig it out myself, even if it meant tearing apart the last pieces of the brother-sister bond I'd been clinging to. By the time spring rolled around, the silence between Jacob and me had turned into a canyon so wide it felt impossible to cross. We lived in the same house, passed each other in the hallway, sat at the same dinner table, but it was like he had erased me from his world. And maybe that would have hurt less if I hadn't still caught him smirking in the hallways at school when someone cracked a joke about me. It was one thing to be bullied by classmates. That hurt, but I could survive it. What I couldn't survive was the growing certainty that the brother who once promised to protect me was the one holding the knife to my back. I needed proof. Because part of me still clung to denial, to the hope that I was wrong. That maybe it wasn't him. That maybe I was blaming the wrong person, letting the pain cloud my judgment. If I could just prove it, one way or another, then maybe I could finally breathe again. So I started paying closer attention. Whenever Jacob was in the living room with his friends, I lingered nearby, pretending to grab a snack or do homework. Whenever his phone buzzed, I strained to catch the flash of the screen. I hated myself for it, for turning into someone suspicious of her own brother, but I couldn't stop. The need to know was stronger than anything. And then, one night, I got my answer. Jacob had left his phone on the kitchen counter while he ran upstairs to grab his jacket. My heart pounded as I stared at it. I knew it was wrong. I knew it was an invasion of privacy, but something inside me screamed, "This is it. This is your chance." Before I could lose my nerve, I picked it up. My hands shook as I opened his messages. And there it was. A group chat with his basketball teammates. Dozens of messages, screenshots, memes. And right in the middle of it, Jacob's words. "Did you see her today? She looked like she was gonna cry again. Bro, she's so easy to mess with. Someone should post that poem she wrote in middle school. It's hilarious." And then, worse. A photo I'd taken last summer, sitting on the porch reading a book. He'd captioned it, "Look at the little hermit, doesn't she have friends?" My breath caught in my throat. My vision blurred. It was him. It had been him all along. The protector. The promise. The brother I believed in. He wasn't just letting it happen. He was orchestrating it. He was the one feeding the fire that had burned me for months. The phone slipped from my hands, clattering against the counter just as Jacob came back down the stairs. His eyes darted from me to the phone, and his face darkened. "What the hell are you doing?" I couldn't speak. Couldn't breathe. All I could do was choke out. "It was you. It's been you this whole time." For a moment, something flickered in his eyes, panic, maybe, or guilt. But then his face hardened. "You went through my phone? Are you serious? You lied to me." My voice cracked, tears streaming down my cheeks. "All those rumors, all those jokes, you started them. You promised you'd protect me, Jacob. You promised." He clenched his jaw, his fists at his sides. "You don't get it. Do you have any idea what it's like being me? Everyone's watching. Everyone's expecting me to be perfect. You're just—" He stopped himself, then spat the word anyway. "You're just dead weight." The words hit harder than any punch. "Dead weight?" I whispered, my heart splintering. "I'm your sister." He looked away. "Yeah, well, being your brother isn't exactly easy. You make everything harder. People laugh at me because of you. Maybe if you weren't so weird, I wouldn't have to." I stared at him, stunned. "You didn't have to. You chose to. You chose to hurt me." For the first time, Jacob didn't have a smirk, didn't have a comeback. He just stood there, his silence louder than any words. I turned and ran upstairs, slamming my door behind me, collapsing on the floor as sobs ripped out of me. I cried until my chest ached, until my throat burned, until there was nothing left inside me but emptiness. The truth I had been chasing was finally mine. But it didn't set me free. It destroyed me. After that night, things in our house were different. I avoided Jacob completely, and he avoided me just as much. At school, the rumors didn't stop, but my reaction did. I stopped crying in the bathroom, stopped hiding in the library, stopped begging for things to change. Because I finally understood, Jacob wasn't going to save me. If I wanted to survive, I'd have to save myself. But survival isn't the same as healing. Survival is just keeping your head above water while the waves keep crashing down. And every time I saw him, laughing with his friends, joking with our parents, basking in the glory of being the golden child, I felt another wave drag me under. I wanted to tell our parents. I wanted to scream the truth until they saw him for who he really was. But every time I opened my mouth, the words stuck. Because what if they didn't believe me? What if they looked at me the same way Jacob did, like I was nothing but a burden? So I stayed silent. But silence has a way of eating at you. It gnaws, it festers, it turns into anger that has nowhere to go. And slowly, that anger started to build inside me, not just toward Jacob, but toward myself. For believing in him. For trusting him. For holding on to a promise that was never real. One night, I looked in the mirror and barely recognized the girl staring back. Red-rimmed eyes. Hollow cheeks. Shoulders slumped like she was carrying the weight of the world. That's when I realized if I didn't find a way to take back my voice, I'd lose myself completely. And maybe exposing Jacob for who he really was wasn't just about getting revenge. Maybe it was the only way to finally set myself free. By the end of that school year, I was done hiding. Done shrinking myself to survive. Done letting Jacob's lies define who I was. The girl who used to wait for her brother to swoop in and defend her was gone. What was left was someone bruised, broken, and angry, but ready to finally fight back. The opportunity came sooner than I expected. Our school hosted an end-of-year awards ceremony every spring. Students were honored for academics, athletics, leadership, you name it. And of course, Jacob was being celebrated. He was nominated for Student Athlete of the Year, the crown jewel award that made parents beam and teachers gush. Our whole family went to the ceremony. Mom curled her hair and wore her nicest dress. Dad ironed his shirt for once. They were proud, and I sat in the back row, clapping politely, my heart pounding. Because I knew what I was about to do. I hadn't planned it, not really. But something inside me, the part that had been silenced for too long, knew this was my moment. The lies had been whispered behind my back for months. Tonight, I was going to drag them into the light. When Jacob's name was called, the gym erupted in applause. He walked on stage, grinning, shaking hands with the principal, accepting his plaque. My parents cheered. His friends whistled. It was everything he wanted. And that's when I stood up. Wait. The word echoed louder than I expected, bouncing off the gym walls. Heads turned. Whispers rippled. My heart hammered so hard I thought I might pass out, but I forced my voice to stay steady. I have something to say. The principal blinked in surprise. Oh, this really isn't. It's about him. I pointed at Jacob, my brother, the golden boy. The gym fell silent. Jacob's smile faltered. What are you doing? He hissed. I took a deep breath. For months, I've been the target of rumors, lies, harassment, and I stayed quiet because I thought maybe it would stop. But it didn't. And tonight, I need everyone to know the truth. My voice shook, but I didn't stop. I couldn't. The person who spread those lies, the one who made my life hell every single day, isn't some stranger. It's him. My own brother. Gasps filled the room. The principal stepped forward, trying to calm things down, but it was too late. The words were out. Jacob's face turned red, his jaw tightening. You're insane, he snapped. She's lying. She's jealous because nobody cares about her. But something inside me snapped. The fear that had kept me silent was gone. No, I said, louder now. I'm done being scared of you. I saw the messages, Jacob. I saw the group chat. The jokes, the pictures, the things you said about me. You made everyone think I was pathetic. You made me a joke to the whole school. And you were supposed to protect me. The gym buzzed with murmurs. Teachers glanced at each other. Students pulled out their phones. Parents whispered in disbelief. And for the first time, Jacob didn't look invincible. He looked cornered, exposed. He opened his mouth to deny it again, but one of his friends in the crowd shouted, "She's not lying." I saw the messages too. My stomach flipped. I hadn't expected anyone to back me up, but the floodgate had opened. Another teammate muttered, "Yeah, dude, you went too far." Jacob's face crumbled. His friends, his army, weren't protecting him anymore. I felt the tears sting my eyes, but I held my head high. You told me once you'd always protect me, that you'd never let anyone hurt me. But it turns out, you were the one I needed protecting from. And I want everyone to know, I'm done being silent. For a moment, the gym was frozen. And then the whispers started again, not about me this time, but about him. Jacob, the golden boy. Jacob, the star. Jacob, the liar. He stormed off the stage, shoving past people, his pride shattering in front of everyone. My parents sat frozen in shock. Mom's hands pressed to her mouth, Dad's brow furrowed in confusion. I didn't look at them. I couldn't. All I knew was that for the first time in months, I could breathe. When the ceremony ended, chaos erupted. Teachers pulled me aside. Students whispered. Some kids avoided me completely, but others came up quietly, saying they were sorry, that they hadn't known, that they wished they'd spoken up sooner. At home, the silence was unbearable. Mom finally broke it, her voice trembling. "Is it true?" she asked Jacob. "Did you really do those things?" He didn't answer. He just slammed his bedroom door so hard the walls rattled. For weeks after, the house felt like a battlefield. My parents didn't know what to do, discipline him, defend him, pretend it hadn't happened. Jacob barely spoke to anyone, locking himself away, his perfect image in ruins. And me? For the first time, I wasn't hiding. It wasn't easy. The rumors didn't disappear overnight. But people looked at me differently now, not as a joke, but as someone who had stood up, even when it cost her everything. The bond I once had with Jacob was gone. Maybe it was gone the moment he decided to trade my trust for his popularity. Maybe it had been cracking for years, and I just refused to see it. But here's what I learned. Family isn't just about blood. It's about loyalty, about love, about protecting each other even when it's hard. And when someone betrays that, when someone chooses to break you instead of protect you, you don't owe them silence. I'll always carry the scars of what he did to me. I'll never forget the nights I cried myself to sleep, the days I felt invisible, the way his betrayal hollowed me out. But I'll also never forget the night I stood up in front of everyone and told the truth. Because that was the night I stopped being his shadow. That was the night I became my own protector.